just broke off about a year ago. And again, I want to stress, if you get the book, there's a very interesting article that describes the gentleman who discovered that, and he actually began to cry when he read the implications of the data of the collapse of the Larsen Ice Shelf. But this whole thing is beginning to disintegrate. It's all moving northward, and as it melts, of course, it changes the currents, and it changes the flows in El Nino and some of these very complicated weather systems. So we're going to be looking at more and more problems with the weather. And the last thing I think they are very concerned about is an economic collapse. And I think that that may be just around the corner. We have a $6 trillion debt right now or more. Nobody knows really how much. Consumer debt, $1.2 trillion, which has been racked up in the last 5 years. That's all those unsolicited credit cards you got. The average credit card debt now is $10,000. If you buy $1,000 worth of stuff, if you paid the minimum payment, finally paid it off, you'd be paying $7,000 in interest. They used to call that usury. They used to put people in jail for it. Now it's perfectly legal. Of course, we have a stock market that's just completely berserk, up around 8,000, 1929, all over again. The baby boomers are betting their whole life, retirement and savings on the stock market to keep going up to whatever they think it's going to go up to, 100,000, I guess, or something. But it's not going to happen. And eventually, our currency system will collapse. That's why they're weaning us off currency. You know, they've already replaced the $100 bills. They're going to do the 50s next. That's just the transitional currency. They're going to be giving us those smart cards, the debit card type things, and that'll be our pay. In fact, we may never see anything that looks like pay anymore. It'll just be bits and bytes on a computer. But the whole global financial system now is so interdependent. It runs 24 hours a day. Trillions of dollars are pushed through the system. And it can't last forever. There's just no way. It's going to melt down. And again, my feeling is, and by the way, when the time comes, I will issue a warning personally to Stan so he can inform his people, because I have computers running that are analyzing these things all the time, this information. I also just want to briefly mention some other prophecies that are not biblical prophecies, but some prophecies that the national security establishment have looked at. They've looked at Nostradamus and his prophecies quite intensively, especially the quatrain in the year 1999, 7th month, "From the sky will come a great king of terror." They're concerned about that. The Fatima prophecy is another one. The Garabandal prophecy in 1962. Several children were given visions. One of the most interesting parts about this was something called the Night of Screams, where all the motors, all the engines in the world stopped, just completely stopped working. Now, how could that happen? Well, now everything is run or has a chip connected to it, an electronic chip, silicon chip. Those are easy to knock out. All you need is a little static electricity or a little electromagnetic pulse. That can be caused by a nuclear explosion, can be caused by a high altitude nuclear or cometary or asteroid burst, or by an earthquake. Because when the earth quakes, it generates what they call piezoelectric phenomenon, or piezoelectric electricity. And of course, two other latter-day self-proclaimed prophets are Edgar Cayce and Gordon Michael Scallion, and they've done quite well with their prognostications about severe earth changes, including a change in the polar axis. So what kind of warning signs should we look for? Well, I've come up with three main ones. First of all, look at commodity prices. If all of a sudden you see the price of food, start doubling like every month or something, you know there's something wrong. That they're they're out there gathering everything they can as fast as they can to get it underground. So that's going to be one good indicator. The second one, military activity, we're already seeing that, such as urban warfare training, movement of men and material, and construction of underground facilities. Again, we have a lot of new continuity of government facilities being built by FEMA. The Russians are building underground facilities in the Ural Mountains, and now in Singapore it's mandatory that they have an underground shelter. Also, disappearance of high-profile individuals. Well, we've had some disappear under strange conditions, like Admiral Borda and William Colby and Ron Brown and the rest of those folks, Vince Foster. But if all of a sudden Congress decides to take a long vacation, beware. Or if the Clintons are out of the country with the Gores for any period of time, you may want to get a little suspicious. But again, according to my good friend and colleague, Colonel Jim Ammerman, he claims that a number of families have moved out of the United States that have worked for NORAD, the North American Air Defense Command, sold all their homes, their goods, their cars, everything at fire sale prices, and are now in Australia at a place called, and some of them are at Perth, and some of them are at Pine Gap, which is another large American underground facility. So let's just sum this up. What's happening right now? Well, my opinion is that we are entering a new age, but not the new age the New Agers are thinking about. We're entering a new dark age, at least for the next 7 years, or there's going to be a 7-year period. It's going to be the darkest age in human history. And I think the generation they call Generation X unconsciously know this. And this is why you see them with such despair and depression. They're all on Prozac or Ritalin or some psychotropic drug. They're tattooing themselves, body piercing. They're going to these concerts, seeing Marilyn Manson, this guy that rips up Bibles, Satan worship, everything you can possibly imagine. It's a lost generation because I honestly believe they don't believe they have a future. I think they unconsciously know that it's over. But I do not believe it's over for us, because I think with our faith in Jesus Christ that we will overcome. And I just want to thank everybody here tonight to come to listen to my message. I hope you've learned something, and I hope you'll keep praying and stay with us and support the Prophecy Club. And just want to say God bless you all. Thank you.